I found myself in a very disturbing situation. I was getting off work at my student internship in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it had been snowing all day. Now, for all you guys who live in the South, you know it's a big deal when it even calls for snow, and grocery stores are raided the nights before. I had decided to go and get some groceries to enjoy with my girlfriend, now wife, since the mayhem had ended, and only people like me who had trucks or all-terrain vehicles could get around. I went into Walmart and got the groceries I needed, and started my way back to my truck. It had now started to snow harder, and there was already about 5 to 7 inches on the ground, and it was around 12 in the afternoon. I was daydreaming about sledding and watching movies the next couple of days with my girlfriend. Just then, as I almost reached my truck, I was jolted by the act of someone grabbing my arm. As I turned around, I saw an older-looking lady who was maybe 5 foot 6 inches. She asked me if I had cigarettes. Now, I don't smoke, so I told her I did not, and turned my back to my truck. Again, she gently tugged on my arm, and then told me that she just got here from Alabama on a bus with her granddaughter and dog, and she was here for breast cancer treatment and wanted money for a hotel. Again, I told her I had no money on me, which I purposely do because I don't like donating to people's drug habits, and would rather get people food myself, if that's what they really want. At this point she said, "Do you know the area well?" Wanting to get out of this situation, I said I did not, which was a lie. Thinking she'd now leave me alone, then she asked, "Oh, okay. Well, since the weather is so bad, will you drive me to my hotel so I can meet up with my granddaughter and her dog, who are in the hotel lobby waiting? It's right up the road here. I can show you." Me being a Christian, and was always taught to help people out. So even though everything at this moment told me to deny this woman again, I told her sure, since I was raised on the rule, never judge a book by its cover. Plus, being a male at 6 foot, I figured I could take her if things got dicey. So she jumped in my truck against all odds, and the next thing I know, she's smoking a cigarette in my truck, and I told her politely to please put it out. Being nervous, I missed my first red flag when she asked me for a cigarette, since she obviously had some. She obliged, and threw the cigarette out the window to my dismay. So, we started driving up the road towards her hotel, at which I was on high alert. At the moment of going through worst-case scenarios in my head, I noticed her fumbling through her purse, searching for something, and looking out the corner of her eye at me, at which I told her, "Just so you know, I have a gun in my truck, so don't do anything crazy." Now, I did have a gun, but it was a shotgun that I had neglected to get out of my back seat a couple of days earlier. And in reality, this would do me no good if she pulled a gun on me at that moment. At this, she stopped messing around in her purse and pulled out her cell phone in her pocket. She looked at me and said, "Actually, do you mind taking a detour? I need to pick up some money from some friends." Okay. At this point in time, red flags were firing off, but again, never judging a book by its cover kept running through my mind. So I told her that was fine, but we had to make it quick, because I needed to make it home. At that moment, she dialed someone on the phone and said, "Yeah, this guy is coming over to bring me to get the stuff. You are ready, right?" At that point, I asked her to talk to the person. When I answered the phone, a man who sounded like he's been chain smoking since birth said, "Hello?" I started asking him questions like, "What's your name?" and asked him if he knew of any hotels nearby. He seemed to stumble over his words, then said he had to go. At this point, I should have gotten a clue and kicked her out of my car, especially after watching so many horror movies. This is when the person goes against their gut and pays for it. But for fear of her actually telling the truth, and me feeling like a terrible person, I decided to go on. At this point, we turned down the street, and I saw a cop car sitting there, off the side. I wanted to go drop her off with the cop, but it would be terrible if she was actually telling the truth. So I passed the cop, and at this point, with a weird, eerie smile on her face, she said, "Glad he's there. Now I feel safe." Now, as we entered the apartment complex, I saw how run down it was. It looked to be a place where heavy drug traffic was going down. Just a very unsettling place, even during the snow. As I parked outside the place she said was her friend's, she said, "Okay, I'll go get the guy and be back." At this, I was very unsettled by everything. Things just didn't seem right. She saw my facial expression of wanting to just get the heck out of Dodge, and to this, she sneered at me, saying something along the lines of me being a terrible person if I left her there, in this weather, under her condition. At this, I got mad. After all, I went out of my way to help her. As I waited, I started to think about things that could happen. What if she brought back a gun, or worse? At that moment, I saw 3 guys coming towards my truck. I realized things were not right. She had set me up to rob me or something, because these guys were big, and one of them had something behind his back which I couldn't see. At that moment, I put it in reverse and took off. Thank God for 4-wheel drive. I looked back to them chasing me, and to see that what was hidden behind the one guy's back was a crowbar. I didn't know what would have happened to me, but now, looking back, I see how dumb and blind I was. There was no hotel anywhere close to the area I was in. The nearest hotel or motel was 20 minutes away. Had I waited for the guys to get to my truck, they probably would have beaten me and robbed me. Or worse. I thank God every day that I escaped and was able to get married until this event. After that, I've never been to that Walmart ever again, or the area for that matter. A couple of months later, I told a co-worker this story, and he told me that a year ago, the same lady tried the same thing to him, but he declined altogether. A smart move on his part. So, horrible lady who lied about having breast cancer to trick people into awful things. I hope you get what's coming to you, and let's never meet again. So be careful who you help out, because some people will take advantage of you, or even worse. Around 13 years of age, I became addicted to instant messaging, usually MSN or the chat rooms on WinMX. I wasn't friendless or weird, but I just preferred communicating with people online, which often led to striking up online long-distance friendships. Most of the time it was completely harmless. But looking back on some of the conversations I'd had with people older than me, leaves me feeling I was a bit naive. But this encounter was of a different ilk. At age 15, I had my regulars I talked to, and one of them was my real-life friend, John, who knew my family quite well. I'm female, he was male. I had dated him when I was younger, but dated in the form of no physical touching and me dumping him over MSN. The closest we ever got to intimacy was me taking a topless photo of myself for him, but never sending it because I was rightfully so, chicken. It was weird for a while, but we eventually became best friends. One day after I'd signed in, John began talking to me as though we had already been partway through a conversation. I asked what he was on about, which confused him as he had supposedly just been talking to me. He copied and pasted the conversation from before I had signed in. From my account, someone had been talking to him, using my distinct tone of writing, punctuation, words, and emotes used, etc. I panicked, called John, explained that it wasn't me he had been talking to. We both didn't know what to do, so we just hoped it wouldn't happen again and ignored it. Maybe a week or two later, the same thing happened again, and again. And then it started happening with multiple people. This fake me was having conversations with the people I talked to most on my account, from my own account. And they had absolutely no idea it was not me. I'm assuming this person could read my conversations and had been mimicking me. John and I decided it would be a good idea to create a new account and re-add the people I was closest with and ditch the rest. It worked for a little while, but I think the fake me must have realized I had switched accounts because not long after that, the same thing started happening to my new account. Again, I created new accounts, and this person somehow kept getting into them. I didn't want to tell my parents as I thought they might take my internet access away. And at the time, the thought of that made me feel sick. So I decided on a different tactic. Instead of trying to escape the fake me by creating different accounts, I quickly added my old account once I'd made a new one. I have no idea what this was meant to achieve. I think I was more curious at this point because I didn't see any danger. Everyone I had added knew what was happening by now, and fake me hadn't done any damage just by talking to people. Anyhow, I ended up in conversation with fake me. I can't remember the details, but it was actually really amusing to start off with. I was pretty witty, and I think I was entertaining to fake me because we got into banter, held conversations, and whatever else. Fake me stopped getting into my new account and instead just focused on talking to me. All this carried on for possibly close to half a year. Towards the end of it, I was 16 now. I began seeing a guy, Luke, who was a few years older than me. Fake me took an interest in this and began targeting my conversations with him instead. It got to the point where he would actually stop talking to me and be talking to fake me instead, despite knowing it wasn't me he was talking to. This annoyed me, so with the help of John, we decided to try and cut off my old accounts by using a different computer, as we were assuming she was getting into my accounts via keylogging or something. So John brought his laptop around. I created a new account and changed all the passwords on my old accounts. He left the laptop with me for a couple of days so I could use it. And shortly, in those few days, fake me managed to get into my damn account again. At this point, I realized that it was a much more serious issue. Fake me could get onto any computer connected to our internet, and it suddenly wasn't amusing anymore. Apologizing profusely to John, luckily fake me didn't touch any of his stuff. I think I lost it a little bit, and abused fake me. And by a little bit, I mean swearing, crying, generally carrying on like an idiot, because we all know that internet bullies react so well to that kind of behavior. After my outburst, fake me turned malicious. Fake me started locking me out of my accounts this time, started harassing my friends more, pretending to be me and abusing them. Some fake me flirted really graphically with. I still didn't tell my parents for fear of them removing my internet access and losing my precious chat rooms. It all came to a head when fake me found the previously mentioned naked picture of me and sent it to all my contacts. I had completely forgotten about it and must have left a copy on my hard drive. Luckily, I didn't have many contacts due to losing most for my ever-changing accounts. But still, it was horrible and had me feeling so ashamed. I know I shouldn't have taken the photo in the first damn place, but for it to be sent around without my knowledge left me feeling absolutely sick. Lord knows where that photo has ended up on the internet. At this point, John decided to take things into his own hands and told my dad. He left the part out about the photo, but the rest was detailed. My laptop was taken away. The cable for the household computer was hidden, and I couldn't use it unless I was supervised. I don't know what he did about securing our network, but it never happened again after that. I was stupid and blamed John for telling my dad, but in reality, he did what I should have done from the start. I put my family at risk because I couldn't deal with not having my chat rooms anymore. I moved from my hometown to Rio de Janeiro to share an apartment with a parkour training friend. Last year, in July, I had an injury on my left knee while practicing. I basically did a jump I knew I couldn't do and smashed my knee into a wall, destroying my ACL, anterior cruciate ligament. So I went to surgery and the recovery lasted about 7 months, while I used crutches, slowly walked again, did physiotherapy, went slowly back into training, and so on. Now, I don't have much of a family support, so I kinda had to recover by myself. I'd say kinda, because of course some people helped me out, like my roommate, my girlfriend, and some friends. But mostly I went through it alone, how I should, since it was my fault. My roommate has a very active life and he is almost never there. And all my dad did was to take one of the crutches I had, since I could walk with just one. And he could use it in his farm for I don't know what reason. so I just have one. When you recover from this type of stuff by yourself, you can absorb certain manias and life hacks, so you can take a shower, eat properly, shave, do dishes, etc. One thing that I started doing was to take the trash out without locking the door to the apartment, because it was unnecessary physical work. I had to take a bunch of trash bags in one hand, open the door, go jumping with one leg through the corridor that led to the trash thing, come back and open the door again, then lock it. Ridiculous, I know, but I always find myself in these type of silly moments. So I just left it open when I got out and locked it when I came back. I've never met nor heard anybody on the corridors of the apartments, although some things started to change positions during that time, but nothing with much value and not in a drastic way. Anyway, about 2 months ago, I came back with everything I had with my training. But slowly, since I was paying attention to my knee, it was awesome and I was into shape again fast, moving forward and progressing and super excited until about 2 weeks and a half ago, when I ended my training day doing some front flips at the beach. Tired and giving up, falling on my butt on the sand now, I decided to stop for the day and head back home to eat with my girl, who was also tired. She trains too and suggests I do a last front flip, just so I feel I haven't given up. She actually always motivates me, since I always put myself down. So I did it with all my power. I jumped high with a double step. I flipped fast and cronk. I ended up falling really wrong on my feet and hurting my right ankle. Okay, I vomit and it hurts bad. Everybody comes near me to ask if I'm okay, all that stuff. I was really afraid that my foot had been so broken that it got separated from my leg or something. But to my surprise, I got up, my body's still warm, I go home and I slept. I just went to the doctor the day after, since I couldn't go to work due to the pain. I discovered I ended up having a lateral malleus fracture. It is a total fracture, but the bones are still lined up, and I should not have walked, and I can't walk for several weeks so the bone does not dislocate, and they can recover. Curse you, universe! There wasn't even dust on my crutch yet, and I can't walk again. So once again, I'm taking baths while sitting down, doing push-ups and pull-ups to stay in shape and so on. But I'm really frustrated, and I couldn't think about anything else than myself being this hyper douchebag that always gets hurt. Last week, I was alone and left the trash accumulate so much in the apartment that I just couldn't postpone it anymore. So here I go again, jumping on one leg to the corridor, putting half of my weight into the walls with one hand. I got the way of it from the first time I injured myself, so it came back pretty fast. When I got back, the door was open as I'd left it and entered. Locked it, and threw the key on top of the fridge. The kitchen is the entrance to the apartment. The apartment is really small, so all the light comes from a big window in the living room. I remember noticing it was darker than before, but I didn't think too much of it. And I opened the fridge to pick up some water. When I finally go to the living room, there is a 7, maybe 8-year-old kid. I freeze due to the surreal factor. He's wearing a paper mask and he is facing me, his back against the window, which he has closed. My heart started to pound so hard I could just have swallowed the Jumanji game, and all the kids in the world were listening to it together. "You shouldn't be here yet," he said on an angry, rusty tone before I could say anything. Then he starts to move really slowly, acting as if I was like a wild animal, and all of a sudden, he runs to me and pushes me to the ground. I'm freaking yelling right now. Because what the F, and I'm trying not to fall. But my right foot hits the floor hard during that, and I fall in much pain. He got scared and angry with that, and tries to open the door and leave. When he can't open it, he starts to scream in a very high-pitched kid scream and to kick the door. Something about him was very violent. I don't know. Sometimes I feel this kind of creepy vibe from children. Like the sense that they are fragile and all, but still could do you real harm when you're vulnerable. But of course, one punch from me and he would be over. So I got over myself, got up all red, picked the key, opened the door, yelling him to get out. He runs outside into the corridors and vanishes after entering the stairs area and going downstairs. I jump to the elevator and try to follow the kid. When I get downstairs, he is there, just sitting in the chair of the security guy with all the cameras from all the floors in front of him. Like nothing had just happened. As it turns out, he is the son of the security guy and helps him with the cameras. He probably saw me entering the building after the doctor, watched me leaving the door open all the time to take the trash out, and waited for opportunities to go there all the time. I talked to his father and discovered that I am not the first one in the building having troubles with him. He has some kind of behavior problems. They don't know if it is neurological. And the parents don't have the time or the money to help him out. I've since moved to my girlfriend's place temporarily and got an x-ray for my ankle, which is showing that I didn't dislocate anything when I stepped it hard on the floor. Well, thank you, universe.